Welcome. My name is Charista Santos Mroczek, and you are watching the 4th episode of Charista's Corner Live. I'm the teen correspondent for the Staten Island Advance and SILive.com. I write a column by the same name, Charista's Corner, and this show will complement on a different medium, television. Going forward, I plan to discuss topics of interest to teens as well as adults living on Staten Island and beyond. I also plan to have prominent Staten Islanders on the show, men and women who have had a lasting impact on our borough, whose expertise in their fields is unparalleled. Tonight, I am beyond thrilled to present to you 3 equally fascinating Staten Islanders on the show who are integral leaders in the academic community. Please welcome my guests, Dr. William Fritz, Dr. Richard Guarasci, and Dr. James O'Keefe.
Hi. Hi.
Dr. Fritz was appointed by the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York to serve as interim president of the College of Staten Island on August 15, 2012, and as a president on May 6, 2014. He received his BS and MS in biology from Wagner College and a PhD in geology from the University of Montana. Dr. Fritz serves as the 7th president of the College of Staten Island and its predecessor institutions, Staten Island Community College and Richmond College. Dr. Fritz is an internationally known field geologist and has published more than 50 articles and guidebooks on sedimentation around modern and ancient explosive volcanoes. Dr. Guarasci is the 18th president of Wagner College, where he previously was the provost and senior vice president, responsible for academic and student affairs, admissions, and support service, in addition to serving as the chief operating officer. He holds the rank of professor of political science, and he teaches in the areas of democracy, citizenship, and American diversity. At Wagner, Dr. Guarasci founded the Wagner Plan for Practical Liberal Arts, the 4-year curriculum for all undergraduates that draws together a substantive liberal arts core into a series of learning communities and experiential learning tutorials. Dr. Guarasci was dean of the college and professor of political science at Hobart College from 1992 to 1997. Previously, he served as dean and founding director of the first-year program at St. Lawrence University, a nationally celebrated model program of democratic living and learning. Dr. O'Keefe is the Vice Provost of the Staten Island campus of St. John's University and Professor of Criminal Justice program of the College of Professional Studies on the Staten Island campus. Dr. O'Keefe graduated from Sam Houston State University in 1989, where he earned his PhD in Criminal Justice Administration. In 1985, he earned his MA and received his BA in Criminal Justice from Police Science and Administration at St. John's University. These 3 gentlemen are highly esteemed by so many people, including myself. I'm so glad that they've agreed to be with me here today. So thank you, Dr. Fritz, Dr. Guarasci, and Dr. O'Keefe.
Our pleasure. Welcome.
The 30,000 Degrees in 2025 initiative, spearheaded by the College of Staten Island, Wagner College, and St. John's University, aims to create and support a college-going culture to increase students' attainment of a college degree by providing educational mentoring within the pre-K to 16 educational pipeline. For the purpose of advancing these goals, these 3 institutions of higher education have come together to form the Staten Island Educational Partnership. Modeled after the successful Greater Louisville Incorporated Degrees at Work program, 55,000 Degrees, the Staten Island Educational Partnership will leverage and align existing college readiness activities to achieve an additional 30,000 baccalaureate or higher graduates by the year 2025. So now let's move on to some questions. What was the inspiration for the 30,000 Degrees initiative, and can you tell us a little bit more about the Louisville 55,000 Degrees initiative?
Yeah, Bill, you start.
Well, I think it's really all about improving the quality of life. I like to stay at the College of Staten Island that we're a part of Staten Island, not apart from Staten Island. And having a baccalaureate degree in today's society is really the way to improve quality of life. Everything from job satisfaction, it's about having a good job. College graduates make about $1.5 million more over their lifetime than ones that don't have a college degree, better health care. indices. So we looked at the demographics of Staten Island, and Staten Island lags behind the other boroughs in New York with the percentage of the adult population that have a college degree. And to put us really more on par, to be more competitive for attracting employers, is we felt that not 55,000 like Louisville, Kentucky, but 30,000 was the number of degrees that would bring our community up into a level that would improve the quality of life indicators, but also attract jobs and potential employees for moving and locating here.
I agree with Bill. This is really about improving the island by increasing the number of college graduates, both 2- and 4-year. I would just add a little ripple. Each one of us has our own little institutional twist on this. So for Wagner, we started about 10 years ago looking across at neighborhoods of distress on Staten Island, low graduation rates in high school, poor health care, so on and so forth, low business and, development and the like. We looked at one neighborhood in particular, Port Richmond, which was about 2 miles from our campus, so it wasn't directly on our doorstep. And we said, can't we align our social capital, our tutoring possibilities, our mentoring possibilities, our leadership training, our expertise of our faculty and our staff, couldn't we align that with one neighborhood in a specific way, not doing for the neighborhood, but doing with and learning from the neighborhood to help that neighborhood lift itself up? And one of the ventures, and the biggest one for us, is in 30,000 Degrees in this educational sector. So we started an academy, academy for high school kids at Port Richmond High School to get students who were capable of high school and college, but not oriented to it, to get through high school successfully and get to a college, be it CSI, St. John's, Wagner, or any college in the United States. And we now have had an office in that school for a number of years, a summer program, a residential program on our campus for high school kids and the like. I'll go into it later. And now we've linked that back to the middle school, IS 51, which actually feeds Port Richmond High School. And we've dealt a leadership program for students and their families in Markham, the Markham Leaders Program in the Markham School. And now we're moving to Elementary School 21, which feeds 51, which feeds the high school. So building this pipeline model. So that's our goal, is to help this community lift itself up, and through the educational sector in particular.
Well, we are doing a lot of the same things. At St. John's University, service has always been an important cornerstone of our mission. So what we are doing is leveraging our professional programs that correspond nicely with a lot of the occupations and the careers that Staten Islanders have traditionally held. So we have educational programs in things like criminal justice, homeland security, hospitality management, and of course business and finance and education. And a lot of these things are the things that Staten Islanders used to go into, and they did well. They had a nice middle-class life. But college wasn't required 20 years ago for a lot of these things. Now it is. So we are trying to keep Staten Islanders up to the times as the educational requirements increase, to keep them credentialed to pursue the careers that many of their mothers and fathers did. And they saw them do very well in those areas.
Has Louisville 55,000 Degrees been successful? And if so, how do you think that program and its success can be replicated in Staten Island with 30,000 Degrees? And overall, why do you think that 30,000 Degrees is needed on Staten Island?
You jump off on that one.
Well, I think it's needed on Staten Island, partly because what my colleagues have been saying, the world has changed. It wasn't that long ago that you could be a successful small business owner, you could work for police or fire, and you could rise clear up to the top without having a college degree. What I like to ask our students is not what do you want your first job to be like, but what do you want to be when you retire? And maybe you can still get that entry-level job without the college degree, but you're not going to go through the ranks. The other thing is this is not about where someone gets their college degree, and that's, the three of us could not absorb the capacity. If we're successful and we really do get 30,000 more degrees over 10 years, it's going to be a lot of other places that Staten Island residents are going to college. It's really a way to raise the awareness of the importance of having that degree and sending the signal to a business that says, we think it would be, we want to bring our high-tech company to Staten Island because there's an educated workforce that we can hire. We just had an opening yesterday for a business technology incubator in St. George, where where we would provide assistance for people with business ideas for them to take them. And one of the first entrepreneurs is one of our current students, and then we have some international and some other businesses, and it's a way of trying to attract them to Staten Island to be able to want to start their businesses here. And that's what worked in Louisville. Louisville, in partnership with the mayor and with many civic organizations within Louisville, has really changed the economy of Louisville by working towards having those 55,000. And so I think the same thing. I think there's a lot of exciting things that we can do on Staten Island when we start seeing the island as being a destination where people want to come and live, where they want to start businesses here, where people can get a good job and stay on the island if they want to stay on the island.
And I would just jump in and say that, building on what Bill's saying, coordination amongst the institutions in Louisville really impressed us. Both private and public institutional, educational institutions, political institutions, policy-oriented institutions, and the like, churches, and so on. So we connected right away. I mean, these are really wonderful colleagues of mine, and we're good friends, and we meet often, and our staffs meet quite often to coordinate this program. So that trust and coordination was important. Secondly, what impressed me was the neighborhood approach that we've taken. So we've divided us up into neighborhoods that we really need to help them lift their graduation rates. So we've reached into those neighborhoods. It's a little complicated because CSI gets a large percentage of its students from Staten Island, and so does St. John's. Right. Wagner, being a private institution, only gets 20% of its students from Staten Island. And we get 46 states and 34 countries. We're a little different. So that's what's interesting. And we also work well together. We're really not competing with each other, we're actually complementing each other. And our goal, as Bill said, was to get students to a college on or off island. So, but building the trust in the neighborhoods was particular because now we have the trust of the high school principals and their staffs with our staff. And then as you can see, all the way down the pipeline. And the goal really is, when you think about how to do this work, you've got to get preschoolers ready to be reading ready by the first grade and second grade. We have to get them on third grade reading level by the third grade. The statistics are kind of ominous, particularly in the African American community. If you're not on the third grade reading level as an African American boy in the United States, you have an 80% greater chance of going to prison than if you were on the third grade reading level. So just working at that lower level and then mentoring and tutoring, getting them seventh grade ready for math and high school and all these transitions into college and success in college is what we're trying to achieve here.
Sure. I think the timing on this is important too. There's an enormous economic development going on the North Shore of Staten Island, on the West Shore of Staten Island. And what's going to happen soon is that Staten Islanders are going to be able to make a good living without going to the city. They're going to be able to make a good living on Staten Island. And so an educated workforce is essential because there already is a need for architects and people with backgrounds in business and finance and all the things that drive business. So the timing is ideal for us to try to produce these students.
Mayor Bloomberg, our previous mayor, used to say, as somebody who was rather significant in terms of economic development in his own life, used to say, money doesn't follow money, money follows creativity. And capital will flow where there's creativity going. And he looked at all these different communities and neighborhoods around the world. So he was a big believer in that. Having a better trained workforce, not just for manual labor, but for creativity at every level, was the key to a successful economy because capital will flow to creative ideas. And that's what we're trying to do on Staten Island.
So maybe getting back to your original question about some of the things that we learned, because I think all three of us have worked on national projects and trying to work on projects to have more students be successful in college. And ultimately, like in Louisville, this has to involve all of Staten Island, from churches and pre-K and childcare, all the way through quality in college. But we've also learned that if you move too fast, things can, because you take on more than you can really coordinate. And so we're working on this pipeline model. And so, for example, the College of Staten Island, we're working with New Dorp High School, which was one of our main feeder high schools. They in turn are working with a middle school, who in turn is working with an elementary school. And eventually we want to focus on that pipeline and partnerships and cooperative programs. And then we can scale it and expand it once we show that we can be successive. So my colleagues are working with their particular high schools to be able to create that pipeline, and then we are going to expand it, because we don't want to start at a scale that we can't sustain. We really want to build for sustainability. This is going to be a project over 10, well, even we hope that it extends long beyond the 2025 period.
Yeah. Well, the next question is something that we actually touched on just now. So, as Staten Island ranks 4th among the 5 boroughs in terms of baccalaureate attainment, have you identified the reasons for this statistic? Because we just went over this, and I'm sure people are wondering why. And are there unique or particular obstacles to college attendance in Staten Island specifically?
Well, I'll start off with one, and there's many answers to the question that you're posing. But we've talked about, you know, the important things being college preparedness, where you're prepared to go to college, college knowledge, college mindfulness. What I like to focus on, sometimes the most important thing that you can do is to ask a preschooler about college. You know, my granddaughter knows that, who's here in the audience, knows that, you know, probably from the time she was 2, I was asking, where are you going to college? And buying a preschooler a T-shirt or, you know, something that has a college logo on it may make more difference than all of the things that you do, you know, down the road after that. And because we have many Staten Island residents that are first generation, whose parents have not gone to college, families often don't think to ask those questions or to give their children those experiences that make that difference. And so we're really trying to create a culture where, as a community, we're stepping in and asking the questions and giving the experiences to change that mindset. So again, I think one of the challenges we have is if you look at statistics of who's going to college, you know, the decks are really stacked against you if your parents didn't go to college. And, you know, just like Richard was saying, and so this conversation is really designed so that, you know, all children can have people asking them about where they're going to college. It makes such a big difference in terms of just mindset of what are you going to do with your life.
I think this bill is saying, setting high standards early and setting an expectation, but also attacking this question of affordability. And this is really an important question. There's the perception that it's beyond our means, we can't do it, we can't afford it, we don't have a path to get there. And one of the things we try to assure them is that whether it's public, private, faith-based institution, there's plenty of resources around to help you afford a college that you want to go to and has what you need, whether it's on island or off island. And that just creating that knowledge for them by giving them examples, taking them to other schools. We take these students in our academy to other institutions, Vassar, Boston College, SUNY New Paltz, Rutgers, of course the 3 colleges on the island, just to show them what different kind of colleges look like, but also saying, look, there's plenty of resources around, both institutional resources, federal resources, state resources, to make it available to you. And that's a big part of it, I think, as well.
And I think navigating the process can be very daunting. Even if you have parents who are very supportive, it can be overwhelming to look at the questions like, how am I going to pay for this? Do I need to have a major? What school am I going to go to? How do I apply? What is a FAFSA? How do I apply for financial aid? All of these things, if you don't have an advisor, can be overwhelming. And another thing, I was born and raised on Staten Island, and I think historically Staten Islanders have a lot of union jobs, a lot of city jobs, and again, things that you didn't necessarily need a 4-year degree to excel. Their parents didn't, but now they do. So there's a lot of reasons that Staten Islanders have fell behind.
So let me just build on what Jim is saying, and the daunting task of filling out financial aid forms and getting the forms at the College of Staten Island, where we feel like we have very high quality programs, but we also have an access mission. Over 50% of our students don't pay tuition, and we know that there are more students than that 51% that would be eligible for aid because their families are making less than $80,000 a year. So if a family is making less than $80,000 a year, we can essentially provide for free tuition and fees for them. But they have to fill out the forms. And that is the real hurdle, that many of them don't know how to fill out the forms. The families don't know how to fit. The families aren't even aware. I've been in workshops where virtually everyone in the audience would have, their son or daughter would have been eligible for financial aid, but they weren't aware of it. And so if you're not aware of it, you don't even know to ask to get the help.
Exactly.
And I would add a third element. So affordability, expectation, high expectations, affordability are the two elements. The third one is mentoring.
Right.
All these various surveys that we've seen about why college students are successful, particularly coming from first-generation college families, will say, somebody told me they cared about me and I could do it.
Right.
Whether it's a coach,
That's right.
an advisor, a faculty member, a president, a dean,
A teacher.
a college student when I was in high school, someone said that for me and said, you're capable of doing this and you will do it. And that's key.
And the
that's
flip
so-
side of that coin is the confidence issue. We speak to high school students all the time that'll just say, I don't know if I can go to college. I don't know if I can do the work. And that has to be addressed as early as possible. Even high school's a little late in the game, but you can still recover in high school.
And that's part of the pipeline. I mean, the best thing a student can do their senior year in high school is take some math courses and, take some of the tougher courses that sometimes, students will take an easy year their senior year. But to take that math course in your senior year, you need to have taken the right courses in your freshman year. You have to have taken the right courses, and it goes clear back to the third grade or earlier. That is often the real critical, and that's why it has to be the whole pipeline. We can't wait until a student gets to college and then talk about what we can do to help them graduate. It's really what they should have been doing many years before that.
Exactly. I'm a senior in high school too, and I'm saying, some people, they just realize now, they have this realization now, and it's too late.
Right.
I mean, some of my friends.
One thing I would just say, though, Chris, this is important to realize. I think for the traditional age student who we're aiming at, you're right. You're absolutely right. It can be too late. But the average age of a college student now is 28 years old. It's a lot of adults going back and catching up, and all of our institutions, particularly these two on my wings, have had healthy programs with continuing ed and getting people back into track. A lot of parents, a lot of single parents coming back, realizing to get to where they need to go, they need a degree. They're some of our best students. They're anxious to learn. They're very committed.
Richard's raising a great point, because we don't want to discourage people that don't take the traditional track, which is, graduating from high school when you're 18 and being done with college by the time you're 22. And those students are probably increasingly fewer and fewer, and more are taking the non-traditional route. But we have students that start later in life that have had to take our continuing remediation and continuing study courses at the most basic level, that have gone on to become doctors and lawyers and been very successful in careers. They got a bit of a late start, but we've provided them with the help and the resources to be able to overcome some of those early challenges. That said, there's nothing that substitutes better than getting the right start. So we also want to help as many people as we can get that right start from early on.
Which is great, and it's great for people that come back too, because as you were saying, it's so important. Education is so important, especially on Staten Island, to get back into the workforce. So that's great. If greater job opportunity and higher wages are some of the measures of success, we all know that certain degrees and occupations are more marketable and command higher salaries in the workforce. Is 30,000 degrees geared toward any particular degree and discipline?
I was toward.
No. There's a couple answers to that. Success in the workplace is only one dimension of higher education. The other dimension of that is success as a person, success as a father and a mother and a parent and a voter. And so it's about educating the whole person, of which a piece of that is finding the right job. But my students are getting hired before they graduate in business and finance and accounting. Many of them are going to law school. So the jobs are there, the job markets are there, but there's no specific focus on any one discipline.
Not in 30,000 degrees per se, but we do know that STEM is hot right now. Science, technology, engineering, math are very, and they're being pushed a lot in the elementary and middle schools all the way through high school, and there are jobs related to those. But I would say, having said that, I'm going to agree with Jim. If you look at a broader fabric, a lot of the leaders of industry, a lot of leaders of different professions majored in traditional liberal arts subjects.
Yep.
You know, you major in English, but you end up going to Wall Street
Yep.
because a lot of high-level end jobs will train you in the particulars of their discipline. What they want to see is, can you write and communicate effectively and persuasively?
right.
Can you think independently?
That's right.
Can you take apart a problem? We call that critical thinking.
That's right.
You know, so all of these are really essential elements. And can you work in a group well? Do you bring out talent in other people? Are you civic-minded in that regard? So all these are pieces of what I think Jim is saying of a well-rounded person. Right. Those are the ones who really become so significant in part. Now, having said all of that, if you've ever been poor in your life, you never want to be poor again, okay? Because I was at one point in my life, and you don't know when you can't pay your bills, you don't want to do that. So getting a job out of an education, of course, is kind of a requisite. That's essential. We understand. We all understand that.
Right.
But we're trying to elevate this above and beyond that. Get that as the minimum, but beyond that, be a person of quality.
Right.
Sure. And I like to say the best college degree is the one you finish, because
I love that.
because
When
you know
you finish,
that
exactly.
because all of the measures about the value of a college degree are independent of what the major was. And yes, there's different things are hot today or tomorrow, but
Right.
the job market changes, and some of the basics of critical thinking and oral communication and ability to read and give a report haven't changed. And I'm real proud at the College of Staten Island. We're a public institution, but we've just had recent rankings that our graduates make in the top 15% of graduates from all institutions in the country, and that's including Stanford and MIT and Harvard in there. If you look at where our students are going to work, we probably have more English majors that are working on Wall Street than business majors. The college degree is what's important. And the other thing is to focus. It's not just about jobs, as Jim said. If you do surveys of job satisfaction, people with a college degree report that they're happier with their jobs. Whether or not that job required a college degree, they report greater job satisfaction. There's better health care indices, lower smoking rates, lower obesity rates. Children know more letters of the alphabet by the time they're 5 than if they don't have a college degree. Their children are more apt to go to college. They're more apt to be voting and civic-minded and giving back to their communities. And all of those have to do with quality of life measures that is more than just about making money.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter what major you have. It's the major that you've completed.
Yeah, there's just a major study. It was just redone. It was in the Economist magazine this week where they were reporting on this. It's everything you're saying, Bill, is that the group that has the fastest growing and the largest amount, or has the least, back up, has the sharpest drop in life expectancy are non-college educated white working class folks in the United States. This is a study, a longitudinal study over time, which was quite a surprise because they thought folks who were poorer would actually have lower life expectancy. But it's actually this group that doesn't have a college degree, which has high stress, jobs that are disappearing, all the rest of it, which are, and there are greater obesity, greater smoking, all the other things that come from having some frustrations, disappointments in life, and addictions and so on and so forth, the opioid addictions and the like. But that was very surprising. And it kind of beefs up the point that I think Bill's been hammering away at ever since we started this project, which is this other quality of life variables that get attached to a college degree.
Mm-hmm. And it's all because of teamwork, and all three of your institutions really have this nice partnership. Mm-hmm. And so can you just tell me a little bit more on how this partnership between the three developed and how you finally agreed and what you're doing now to promote 30,000 degrees?
Well, I think the great thing about the partnership is we really represent here on Staten Island the full range of American higher education, between a large public, a private liberal arts, a faith-based liberal arts program. I think we really cover that range. And so to me, this is not about where a student gets their degree, but students have choices, and some students do better in one environment than another environment. And so, what we have in common is the desire to see higher percentage of the population with college degrees. And I think that's the thing that really brought us together and said that, that's the common mission, I think, among our institutions.
Right. Yeah.
I think leadership starts with vision, which we have about this program, good sense of humor that allows people to get along during rough periods of time, but a generous spirit. And generosity is a big part of effective leadership. And these are two very generous people with their time and efforts, and it helps us create a friendship together, a trust, an enjoyment of being with each other, staying on focus, realizing how we're different in certain ways, not just institutionally, but even personally in some sense, and also how we complement each other. And we really are there for each other. And we eat in a local diner, which we will not name, which is shortening our lifespan. But we eat together, and that's an important part of this. So.
Communication is key.
We don't count calories.
No.
And a common concern for doing something that's larger than ourselves, I think, is important. And that's, you reach a certain age where you have been successful, and it's time for you to help others come up. And we're all at that point where we'd rather help others succeed than just try to keep building up our own little things.
Well, that's great. That's great. It's great. Clearly, each college has its own unique mission. Does this help or hinder collaboration? And also, could each of you discuss your respective institution's mission and how you integrate these distinct missions to advance 30,000 degrees as a whole?
All right, I'll start. We are distinctive.
Good question.
But we have a lot of commonality. We're all committed to seeing effective education on the island. We all love seeing young people grow and prosper.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all teachers at heart. So a teacher loves to see the light bulb go on and somebody really become their own person, falling in love with learning at some level or on some subject area. So I think that's the key part, that's an element in all of us. I suspect every one of our institutions have in our mission statement some commitment to the communities in which we live as an essential part of what we're about, and have strong values around that. So I think there's a complementarity as well as differences. The other part I would say, and I think I'll go out on a limb, this is different from previous epics of the three institutions on this island, where they were more competitive with each other and a little bit distant from one another.
Yeah.
We're at a different point in our histories, and but with that common set of missions. But we're at a different point where we want to see each of the institutions succeed. We realize that success for any of us is success for all of us.
Right.
Yeah, I think all of our missions is really so different that it's there's very little competition. The type of student that would be attracted to each of the three of our institutions is very different because we offer very different product, very different experiences, and so I think the commonality is really what brought us together. At the College of Staten Island, clearly, we're working on a new strategic plan, and borough stewardship is no surprise for a public institution. That I guess the only surprise for American higher education is we call it borough stewardship as opposed to some other entity. But really it being part of Staten Island, our other mission is we have an access mission, access to high quality education. We provide access at the associate level clear through the doctoral level, and but I think that complements very nicely. Richard is drawing students from all over the country, probably all over the world.
34 countries. Yeah.
I'm assuming, and
Sure.
You're going to be attracting a group of students that really is looking for an institution.
Yeah, St. John's University has been around, it's going to be 150 years soon. So for such a long time, we've become part of the fabric of New York City. And you always meet people on Staten Island that might have a bachelor's degree from Wagner and a master's degree from St. John's, or a bachelor's degree from the College of Staten Island and a master's degree from Wagner. So there's a lot of interchangeable parts here. But in all of our missions and most universities, service is always a critical component. And so the question is not to do service and just put it out there, but let's do service in a meaningful way, and you do that by collaborating with others and really having a collective impact instead of everybody just doing their own thing and just hit or miss. There's no collective impact if everybody works independently.
And I would add to this conversation as we're thinking it through. We produce a lot of teachers, the three of us together, who are purposing the schools that these children are coming from, elementary schools all the way through high schools. We produce a lot of the teachers on Staten Island. The large majority come from our three institutions. So that gives a common direction as well.
Definitely. Well, it's great that you're all working together, because that was just a question that I had, because you do have different missions, and it's just great that you're coming together for the better of the futures of other people.
Right, and I think that's been good for the borough too, because Richard and I at least probably remember times where there was, the competition was emphasized more than the cooperation and the collaboration. And I think it's been really good to see the community. We all three serve on the board of the Staten Island Economic Development Corporation, which of course is very consistent. What we're talking about is how can we use education to bring better jobs to the island. But the fact that we've been working together is just creating such better spirit on the island than the days when there was perceived competition.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Your goal is to have 30,000 more baccalaureates held by borough residents by 2025. Can you explain the paradigm and methodology you're using to attain this goal? Because I know there's a pipeline paradigm, and if anybody wants to tell me more about it.
I'll start then. Well, we started with the concept of a passport model that would actually identify children early on and track them through in a positive way, tracking, that is affirming their success all the way through from elementary to middle school into the high schools and then successfully into college and completing college. So that notion of a passport, a student would be proud to know they're making success along the way. And then built into that is ultimately not only college mindfulness and college knowledge and all the important ingredients that we've been talking about, but also direct mentoring. And that's where the service component comes in. Right. We sit on a lot of what we call in our business social capital. All right, so we have students and faculty and staff who can give hours of their time mentoring, tutoring, supporting, researching, so on and so forth, helping get grants for these programs and the like. And that's our social capital. And so redirecting our institutions to be mindful and directly partnered with these neighborhoods in this island is a big part of it. So if there's a model, it's neighborhood, and then what we call pedagogy, the way we teach and learn. The pedagogy is really mentoring and direct service to make sure that students are online and supported and rewarded and affirmed, and their families. It's really important. So the work that we're doing, so I'll give you an example. So several years ago, through today, we were working at PS 20 and 21 in Port Richmond. And we've been working on an attendance program, just monitoring attendance and getting students to school and making sure they stay in school and are there and successful. And some of my students have done that as part of their own work at Wagner, as part of their service work, part of their leadership training as well, and been quite successful. And we received a grant from Deutsche Bank. We were one of 20 schools in the city that received this grant. This is an example of what many of us do here. And the scores that we saw in reading in that school because of our presence there were so high that the bank asked us to slow it down because we were embarrassing the other institutions who weren't providing the same kind of, they weren't getting the same kind of mentoring. So we do know that having college students involved in the lives of children and helping those college students be trained correctly to do this is an important part. So one of the things I'd love to see us do, that we've been still thinking out loud, is developing a core of our students to be storytellers. So they could work with preschoolers and early first and second graders, because young students listening to stories develops reading readiness and excitement, and also having them write their own stories and prepare them or talk them into all the new technology, tablets and so on and so forth. It creates an excitement amongst them for learning that they may not have had, where they may feel they're behind. So that's some of the pedagogy, the methods of what we're trying to do, is actually get into schools and work directly with teachers and students and by the way, this has a big impact on my college students, because they find themselves of value to others, and their self-esteem and their performance goes up in college. So,
That's great.
It's students talking to students has a great relationship and a great impact on our students as well, because it gives them a chance to do something that they want to do and to make a meaningful contribution. And then we get to experiment with different strategies. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we tried something with the Chamber of Commerce and the public schools, where we had something called Career Con. So we brought 900 Staten Island high school students to campus, and we brought 65 companies, and we had a career fair. And everybody was saying to me, what are you having a career fair for high school students? And the answer is because they spoke with employers about, what kind of education do I need to come work for you? And then we rotated them through, and then we had a college readiness workshop where we said, okay, if this is the kind of thing that you are interested in, and they're telling you you have to be an engineer, here's the career track for you to get to be an engineer. So it was just a fun experiment to plant the seed so that students could see, okay, that's what I want to be, an FBI agent. this is the degree I need to get there. This is the mechanism that'll get me from point A to point B. And it just kind of laid out the dots for them.
Yeah.
So I never had a career fair for high school students before.
Great program.
But it really turned out to be a fun day, and the students really had a lot of benefit.
Say a word also about is it the physics program you have at,
Yeah,
at McKee?
Yeah, we're working with McKee High School, and like Bill said, STEM is a big field. So the original idea was to offer STEM programs, offer engineering programs. But what we found out is that a lot of high school students were not ready for STEM yet. So we built what we call a bridge to STEM. So now we're bringing McKee High School students to campus, and we're giving them classes in physics and mathematics and the prerequisites to STEM, so that we can build up the academic preparation, so that when they do come to university, they can step into a STEM program and exceed.
Right.
And you find out those things by trial and error. The
Right.
original plan was to offer engineering, and the students were like, oh, you know, I haven't had physics yet, or I haven't had chemistry yet, or I haven't had algebra yet in some cases.
And a couple examples that I'd give for the work we're doing is really the pipeline and collaborations. And sometimes education in the United States is very segmented, meaning that the elementary school doesn't talk to the middle school teachers don't talk to the high school doesn't talk. So we're trying to break down those bridges and having communication not only among the students moving across, but having the faculty working and talking. So we're working with Staten Island Technical High School. You know, we have an engineering program at the College of Staten Island. Many of the students at Staten Island Tech are interested in engineering, and so we're looking at partnerships where the faculty have started talking to each other, looking at some of the students from Staten Island Tech spending time on our campus, maybe being able to get a couple credits of college work done before they come. I mentioned that we had a ribbon cutting and opening yesterday for our technology business incubator. The principal of Staten Island Tech High School was right there because we're looking for opportunities to, you know, maybe some of the Staten Island Tech high school students have some interesting ideas for technology, you know, startup, and really trying to see how we could work that. Sure. You know, we're working with New Dorp High School, who has always had a learning community model, but we've had a lot of exchange to see how what we call learning communities at the college translates to what is called a learning community in the high school. The faculty have started to talk about alignments in the curriculum, and then that's been being pushed down into the middle school. So I think it's really opening avenues for conversations that I've never seen happening before. You know, often college preparedness is, you know, from the college side, we all sit and talk about what would make a better college student, but we never engage the faculty in the high schools and the faculty in the middle schools. And this is this project through our pipelines is starting to do that.
Yeah. To take that one step further, relative to conversations that you never had before, we were doing a workshop at McKee High School, and some of the students wandered in and they said, well, I don't have to go to college. I'm going to be a tradesman. I'm going to be an electrician or a carpenter. And we said, well, you know, that's great. God bless you. I have a great deal of respect for the trades. However, when you get to be a tradesman, who are you going to work for? And they said, well, I'm going to go work for a company. And I said, but if you went to school and got a degree in business, you could start your own company and you can make yourself rich. Why do you want to work to make somebody else rich? And they said, I never thought of that. So going to college and working with your hands are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
And it's great that you're working with high schools, but what about the other borough high schools that are not directly involved in Anchor Institution partnership? How is 30,000 Degrees engaging them?
Okay.
We're working with high schools. I think we all are working with high schools across the spectrum.
Yeah, we all get students from Staten Island. Right.
We jokingly say it's not like a marriage. We're not married to the high school. We work kind of across the board.
Right. We draw large numbers of students from all high schools, public and private, on Staten Island, and we have to work with all of them. But the idea is through our anchor institutions is we're exploring in depth some levels of partnership that we're already starting to see that we can copy some of those elements in our work with the other high schools.
Yeah.
So it isn't that, at least from my perspective, this is not an exclusive partnership that is always going to remain static. We're really, you know, often in education you like to pilot things with a, you know, with anchors and partners, and then you reach out, you know, so my vision is that before the project is over, we're going to have this level of partnerships with every one of the Staten Island middle schools and elementary schools and high schools.
It's multifaceted, I think. So clearly, we all work with all these schools, as we've been saying, in one way or another. We all get students from all these schools, wonderful students. But we've aimed at the schools that need help. We aimed at the neighborhoods that don't have 75 or 80% graduation rates. That's what the island needs us to be doing. We need to turn higher education towards these sectors in K and support the teachers and the staffs there, the families and their students, to be successful. So it's two-dimensional in that regard. So for the little program that we have at Wagner, which the students call PERPLA, Port Richmond Partnership Leadership Academy, PRPLA. They named it, I didn't. We take cohorts of 12 students, 12 sophomores, 12 juniors, 12 seniors. They go through the program, 3 summers at Wagner. The first summer they're taking high school courses and 2 high school courses taught on our campus, and they live on our campus for 2 to 3 weeks so they understand what a college campus looks like and feels like, which is really demystifying for them. It's very helpful. And then they do a civic studies 3rd course where they actually are working in their community with our students. Our sophomores in the Port Richmond High School who are in the program actually build an asset map of their own community. You know, communities that are in distress, you could look at all the problems, but the way you make change is to look at the assets in the community, to build out from them. So they literally physically identify the churches, the library, all the nonprofits, so on and so forth, all the opportunities in their neighborhood, and become hopefully leaders in their neighborhood. The juniors and seniors in this program take 2 college courses each semester and continue the civic studies. And they have a whole semester of college done as they attend CSI or St. John's or Wagner or some other place off island. So the reason I mention all this is, as we started a little earlier and then we folded into 30,000 degrees. So the first 12 students who came out of this program from Port Richmond High School and Wagner College in this program, Krista, 12, we were hoping 6 would graduate high school. All 12 graduated from high school. All 12 have successfully completed their first semester of freshman year in college. So we're 12 for 12, which is great, and that's what we're all going to see that. Yeah. So that's the kind of work we're trying to get into. Really get into the granularity of their lives, their families, support them, and you know, as I said about one young woman, who when we started this program was the most troublesome young woman we found. Bright, difficult personality, clever. Tried every game in the world in high school to get out of work, but we focused on her. A lot of folks said, let's keep her out of the program. We put her in the program because I said she can either find a life of tribulation and difficulty. You know, she could have children by the time she's 18 and not married and all the rest of that dynamic we've seen in some neighborhoods, or she could be running a hospital on Staten Island in 20 years because she has that capability, that intelligence, and that, you know, take charge attitude. Mm-hmm. And the school and the programs were pulling in one direction, and gangs and what have you were pulling her in the other direction, and she successfully fought through this with us. And now she got a 3.1 grade point average her first semester at Wagner.
That's great.
And I think she's going to do it. Yeah.
Another example of that would be at St. John's University. It would have been very intuitive for us to work with the Catholic high schools. Right. We have a lot of wonderful Catholic high schools on Staten Island, but 98% of those students already go to college. So we work with them academically, of course, but they don't need the assistance of a 30,000 degree program, because I wouldn't be able to move the needle there. It's more important to go into a public high school where I can actually do some of the hard work that has to be done. The Catholic high school students are doing great. They don't need a program like 30,000.
Oh, that's great that you're all helping out. So on a lighter note, this is my favorite part of the show. This is the lightning round. So this is all different questions, different topics, and just you can answer quickly or just lightning round. Okay. So the first question is Yankees or Mets?
Mets.
Yankees.
Oh.
Nationally.
Staten Island Yankees.
Brooklyn Dodgers.
Island Yankees.
Actually, Brooklyn Dodgers, but I don't think they're coming back. Okay, so.
Jets or Giants?
Jets.
Jets.
I'm not a football fan.
Okay. What is your favorite meal?
Go ahead.
Shepherd's pie.
Ravioli.
Oh, I have to say breakfast and waffles.
Breakfast and waffles. I love all 3. I'm getting really hungry now. Now this is kind of out of the blue, and have you ever smoked marijuana?
Oh God, do you really want us to say this? Bill is famous for this. Bill's been smoking all his life.
For me, that's easy. I had a career in law enforcement, so absolutely, unequivocally not.
Yeah, I'm with him, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're with him. That's funny.
I thought I'd help out there.
Thank you for this lifesaver there.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
San Diego.
New York.
Oh, I have to stay Staten Island, but
Besides Staten Island.
either Staten Island or the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, great place.
Nice. What's your favorite movie and why?
Oh gosh.
The Departed reminds me of my family.
I have so many favorite movies. It's hard, like Cinema Paradiso or something like that. But I just saw Lion on Saturday. Boy, go see that movie. It's a beautiful movie about a young boy in India.
What's it
who
called?
gets Lion.
Lion?
It's a young
Lion.
boy who
I've
gets
heard about
lost. He gets lost on a train, and he's adopted by Australian parents 2 years later. And 20 years later, he uses Google search to find his original family, even though he loves the family that raised him. But he knows that this other family has been trying to find him for 20 years. It's a true story.
Oh, wow.
It's Dev Patel, beautiful story, and Nicole Kidman. So that's my new favorite movie.
I just read the book, The Shack, but I haven't seen the movie yet. But I'm looking forward to seeing.
My friend just saw it. I've never seen it.
Yeah. Bill, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, I like lots, but I'd say if I'm flipping TV and I see a James Bond on, I'll sit there.
007.
I'll sit
I have
there
to
and
say, I love James
sit there and watch it. So.
I love them too. My family and I, we love James Bond. We love the action.
Yeah,
You know, sometimes my little sister Angelica gets scared sometimes, but other than that, it's good. Other than that. What's your favorite quote, and why do you like it?
Oh boy,
Yeah, I'll give you a minute.
so many.
There's so many.
I'm going to use one. I have lots of favorite quotes, like most of us, but this actually came from baseball. It came from Branch Rickey, who was the general manager who found and hired and nurtured Jackie Robinson.
Yep.
And he said that luck is the residue of planning. Luck is the residue of planning. So, you have to be ready for luck. When it happens, you have to be prepared. Prepared yourself in life to take advantage of the opportunities. That you have to see them, realize it's an opportunity, and then be prepared to actually exercise that. So I'll stay with that one.
Right. So I'll take a quote from the dean of the School of Business at the former institution where I worked for many years, and I suspect he had paraphrased it for many others since we're talking about college success. But he said the way to be successful at college or anything in life is to show up on time, show up dressed for work.
That's a good one.
As a university professor, I always liked when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Oh, wow.
Because
I like that.
yeah, if a student is not ready for your message, it's not gonna work. But when they're ready, it's very powerful.
I love that one. I'm going to use that.
Okay.
What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, "The harder you work, the luckier you seem to be," or
Oh,
something.
I like that. That's good.
That's similar to yours.
Yes.
That's why when you said it, I was like, is he going for my quote? And my another one I like is, "God helps the man who works hard,"
Yeah.
too. That's also one
Yes.
of my favorites.
Good.
Let's see. What's your favorite book and why?
I have a lot of favorite books. You're talking to people who read all the time, so
Right.
it's hard
It
to
must be
discern
hard.
the favorite
2 or
book.
3.
Oh gosh.
Structures of a Scientific Revolution is always a good one
Yeah,
by
yeah.
Thomas Kuhn.
Well, this summer I read a great book by Thomas Cahill, which is How the Irish Saved Civilization.
Oh, it's a great book.
And
Was I in that book?
But it's really good for things because it really starts out at the fall of the Roman Empire and shows that in a 70-year period how much of Western Europe lost the ability to read and write, and how quickly societies can change. And great book. I won't say it's my favorite, but it's the one that I've read just recently that's a great book.
I love classics as well as contemporary literature. So, the Iliad by Homer, which is considered the first novel, if we can say that, I still think is one of the great experiences I had in my life as a youngster. Reading that as a freshman in college really had a big impact on me in terms of opening up my mind to literature.
If you could give high school seniors one piece of advice, what would it be? Because I'm sure they would value your advice.
My
Go to
advice would be-
college. I mean, what else can I say?
My advice would be when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Stay positive, and you can do almost anything.
I would say learn how to manage your time.
Yeah.
That is the essential skill of a college student. High school, full of organization, full of responsibilities and
Right.
tasks. You get to college, you're not there a long time during the day. A lot of what you're expected to do is outside of the classroom, not on campus. And learning the task of how to actually set a schedule for yourself, lay out a semester for yourself, when you're going to have exams, when you're going to start preparing to study for them, when papers are due, and how you're going to back up on the schedule and say, when do I have to start working on that research? Creating a daily schedule for yourself. I'm in class these hours, what am I doing out of class?
Yep.
Where's my social time? What organizations am I going to belong to?
Yep.
And then just saying I'm going to follow the schedule. It never works exactly right, but I think having the confidence you get from having a schedule that you've built for yourself, taking charge of your life, is all about time management for freshmen in college. So that's what I'm
And I
saying.
guess I'd have to jump in on that, and the advice that I give to high school students is to join a group. And it's partly
Yes.
because of exactly
Yeah.
what you're saying. Everything's very structured in high school. You come to college, nobody cares whether you come to class, whether you,
Yeah.
and so if students aren't very self-disciplined and try to do it on their own, they can really get into trouble. But if you're part of a group that cares whether you come to class and cares whether you complete your homework assignment, it really makes that transition so much easier.
When I was a college professor for many, many years, I would tell my freshman students, because they were new to college, it was their first week or two, I would say, look, everybody in high school assumed you were an adolescent. But unfortunately for you, every single professor at this institution assumes you're an adult and you can take care of yourself. You don't realize that yet, but they expect that. So you better get control of yourself. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I will take that with me as I go off to college, and I'm sure
I
other
don't
high
think you
school
need it.
students
I think
will.
you're in good shape already. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that concludes the 4th episode of Charista's Corner Live, and I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. For those of you who are interested, Dr. Fritz, Dr. Guarasci, and Dr. O'Keefe will be honored for their work on 30,000 Degrees at the upcoming Neptune Ball on June 9th, 2017, to be held at Snug Harbor Cultural Center. I'd like to thank Dr. William Fritz, Dr. Richard Guarasci, and Dr. James O'Keefe for being on my show today, and hopefully they'll come back again and see us soon. Until then, just remember, people will forget what you said, but will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you. And thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining
You're
me.
fabulous.